There is a unique kind of exhaustion that settles deep into a parent's shoulders after a long flight with a sleeping child. It is more than physical fatigue, the stiffness from holding a small body steady for hours, the ache traveling from neck to lower back. It carries a layer of tenderness, a vigilance that refuses to switch off, even when the world around you says it is safe to rest. Marcus Whitfield carried exactly that weariness through the revolving doors of the Aldridge Grand Hotel on a Thursday evening in early November. His 6-year-old daughter Sophie slept soundly against his shoulder. In his free hand, he held a small bouquet of red roses, stems gripped low so the blooms would not brush her face. He had bought them at the airport just before boarding, deciding somewhere over Ohio that he would not let the anniversary of his wife's passing arrive without flowers in the house. Some traditions endure through grief by pure stubbornness. This was one of his. Marcus was 40, with dark, slightly unruly hair that resisted every attempt at neatness and a beard that spoke more of travel than grooming. He wore a well-broken-in brown leather jacket and carried a leather messenger bag heavy with the practical chaos of traveling with a child, snacks, a tablet, spare clothes, and a stuffed bear whose one ear had been loved nearly threadbare. Sophie's pink jacket was rumpled, her dark hair half freed from the braids he had carefully made that morning. She clutched the bear loosely, her small hand resting trustingly against her father's jacket. To any observer in the lobby, they looked precisely like what they were, a tired single father and his daughter hoping for nothing more complicated than a bed. What the lobby did not know, and what Marcus saw no reason to announce, was that he owned the Aldridge Grand. It was the 7th property in the small hospitality group he had built over 11 years, long before Sophie's birth, before Elena's illness, before the world reshaped itself around their loss. He rarely announced himself during visits. He preferred to experience his hotels as an ordinary guest. Only that way could he truly see how people were treated when no one expected consequences. He approached the front desk slowly, steps measured so as not to wake Sophie. 2 women stood behind the counter. The first, tall and blonde with her hair in a neat low bun, wore a navy blazer and a name tag reading Claire. Her arms were crossed. Beside her stood Renata in a cream blazer, dark hair loose, arms also crossed. Both regarded him with the same guarded assessment. "Good evening," Marcus said quietly. "I have a reservation under Whitfield. Checking in for tonight." Claire glanced at her screen, then back at him. "I'm not seeing anything under that name." "It should be there," Marcus replied evenly. "It may have been booked through corporate. Could you please check again?" There was a pause, the kind that reveals how much effort someone is willing to give before even finishing the request. "Sir," Claire said, "even if there were an issue, we're fully booked. There's a large corporate event upstairs. Nothing is available." Marcus shifted Sophie gently. "I understand it's busy, but it's been a long flight. My daughter really needs a proper bed." Claire exchanged a quick look with Renata. Something unspoken passed between them. "I'm sorry," Claire said, in a tone that held no real regret, "but there's nothing we can do. You might try the Marriott a couple blocks away," Renata added. "Walk-ins this time of year are tricky. Best to call ahead next time." Marcus stood quietly for a moment, absorbing the dismissiveness. He had built his business on the belief that you learn the most about people by watching how they treat those who appear to need nothing from them. Right now, he was simply a tired man in a worn jacket holding his sleeping child and a modest bouquet. "Well, bout, is there a manager I could speak with?" he asked calmly. "The manager is tied up with the event upstairs," Claire replied. "I can't interrupt him for this." As Marcus considered his next words, a third woman emerged from a side door near the concierge desk. She was about 50, with kind eyes and silver-streaked dark hair pulled back simply. Her burgundy housekeeping supervisor vest bore the name tag Dolores. She had been carrying fresh linens when she noticed the scene at the desk: the sleeping child, the roses, the father's tired posture, and the stiffness of the 2 desk agents. She set the linens on a nearby cart and approached. "Excuse me," she said gently to Marcus. "Is everything all right?" Marcus met her gaze. Her expression held an open attentiveness, entirely missing from the front desk. "I have a reservation that isn't showing up," he explained. "They say the hotel is full." Dolores glanced at the computer, then at Claire. "Did you check the corporate block? Executive bookings sometimes sit in the secondary tab." Claire's face tightened with irritation. "I checked the system. Nothing there." "Did you check the secondary tab?" Dolores asked again, her voice still gentle but now carrying quiet authority. After a reluctant few clicks, Claire's expression changed. There it is. Whitfield. Under executive booking. I thought there might be, Dolores said simply. She turned fully to Marcus, noticing the details others had missed. Those roses are lovely. Is tomorrow a special day? Marcus looked down at the slightly crushed blooms. It's the anniversary of my wife's passing, 3 years tomorrow. We always put flowers out. Sophie picks the vase. Dolores's face softened with genuine compassion. I'm so sorry. Her eyes moved to Sophie. She's beautiful. Poor thing looks exhausted. It's been a long day for us both, Marcus admitted. Dolores reached out with quiet permission, gently adjusting a bent rose stem. Let me find you a proper vase before you head up. You shouldn't have to carry them like this. It was a small act, unremarkable in most contexts. Yet to Marcus, who had spent over a decade building a company around the idea that true hospitality is a character trait rather than a department, it meant everything. Someone had finally seen them. Thank you, he said. That's very kind. It's the least we can do after keeping you waiting so long, Dolores replied, loud enough for Claire and Renata to hear clearly. She fetched a vase from behind the concierge desk. Marcus checked in without further issue. The suite on the 9th floor had been reserved weeks earlier. Before going upstairs, he quietly asked to speak with the general manager. Gregory Sandoval arrived moments later, apologetic the instant he recognized the name. He had worked for the company 6 years, and had met Marcus only twice before. Mr. Whitfield, I had no idea. I'm terribly sorry for the confusion. I'll handle it right away. Marcus raised a hand. I'd like to talk about what happened, not as your boss, but as a guest who was treated poorly, simply because of how I looked when I walked in. He recounted the dismissiveness, the refusal to check properly, and the suggestion to go elsewhere. Then he spoke of Dolores, the vase, the kindness, the attention to small human details. I'm not asking you to fire anyone in haste, Marcus said, but I want you to think about the kind of hotel we're running when the housekeeping supervisor understands hospitality better than the front desk staff. After a careful review the following week, Gregory let Claire and Renata go. The pattern of guest complaints confirmed it had not been an isolated incident. Marcus took no pleasure in it. He believed people generally rise to the standards they are held to, and part of the failure lay in the systems that had allowed such behavior to persist. What stayed with him far more was Dolores. 2 days later, he found her in the small break room behind the housekeeping office, eating a sandwich during her short lunch. Dolores, do you have a minute? She looked up, surprised, and started to stand. Mr. Whitfield, I didn't realize. Please, sit, he said. I just wanted to thank you properly for the other night. She sat, faintly embarrassed. It was nothing. I just don't like seeing people treated that way, especially a father traveling alone with a little one. I raised 3 kids by myself after my husband passed. I know that kind of tired. Marcus nodded. I didn't know that. Not many people ask, she said simply. He sat across from her. I'm restructuring our regional training program. The one that teaches what hospitality really means beyond the script. I think you'd be excellent at helping design it. Actually better than most people currently doing the job. Dolores blinked. Mr. Whitfield, I clean rooms. I'm not a trainer. You saw a tired father, a sleeping child, and a bent flower stem, Marcus replied. And you fixed all 3 in about 90 seconds, while 2 trained desk agents stood 3 feet away, and saw nothing. That's not a small skill. That's the entire skill. I'd like to pay you properly to teach it to others. After several days of thought and a long conversation with her oldest daughter, Dolores accepted. Within a year, she became the regional training coordinator for guest experience across all 7 properties, a role created specifically around the quiet excellence she had practiced for years without recognition. She kept on her office wall a small framed photograph, a simple glass vase holding slightly crushed red roses. Marcus had sent it the week after the anniversary, along with a card that read, "Thank you for seeing us when it would have been so easy not to." Sophie remembered little of that evening. She had slept through most of it, but she carried a vague, warm memory of a kind woman with silver-streaked hair who had fixed a flower for her daddy, and smiled at her while she pretended to stay asleep. Years later, when Sophie was older, and beginning to understand the kind of man her father was, she asked him why that particular night had stayed with him so clearly. Marcus told her it was the night he was reminded, once again, of something he had always believed. Kindness rarely arrives with fanfare. It comes quietly, in the noticing of a bent stem, a tired set of shoulders, or a child who deserves a bed instead of a lobby chair, and the people who offer it without title or expectation of reward are often the ones most deserving of being truly seen. In the end, what lingers longest from evenings like that is rarely the unkindness, which fades soon enough. It is the quiet decency of someone who simply chose to look a little closer. We never fully know, walking through a door tired and travel-worn, who will see us clearly. But the kindness offered freely in our most ordinary, difficult moments is often what we carry with us longest.